Hello and welcome to another video here at Frontline Model Hobbies and another review. And again, Rye Field Models, but they're 1/35th King Tigers. We've got two different flavours. We've got the upgraded and the standard versions to look at, and also the King Tiger side skirt set that they produce for this kit. Now, before I crack on, I just want to say a huge thank you to Gary at Tiger Hobbies for providing these samples and all the rest. And also, I just want to dispel any myths about Henschel and Porsche turrets. Now, Henschel and Porsche was the first designer of the hull, and they produced about 100, at which point they found errors and this, that and the other in design, so Henschel took over designing the hulls. So they was the prime responsibility of designing that. The turret has got nothing to do with them whatsoever. It was Krupp. They were the designers of the turret, and the myth comes from really that Krupp designed the more rounder turret, which was on the Porsche chassis, and then the squarer one was on the Henschel one. That's where we get the myth from anyway. So with that, I'm going to crack on with looking inside the box. Right, as the man said, let's have a look inside the box. Now, I'm just going to take a look at one of them because obviously the parts are the same, with the exception of the upgraded bits, which I'm going to show later on. Now, the standard version, as you can see, has got that black and white look to it, so that's the way that you can tell. And there's a lot more writing on there, but either way. So let's have a look inside. And as you can fully well imagine, it is fully packed. So sorry about the glare, but you've got link and length tracks in this one, other one you want. You've got polycaps, clear parts, and you've got another large sprue there, another one there. Count these as they're coming out. So you've got your lower hull and your turret. You've got a spring, well, I'll find out what that is for. Another sprue, another one, funny enough, another one. Then you've got all your wheels and everything in there, so it's ×3 there. You've got your P and your photo etched, you've got your colour callouts, and you've got the destructions, which I'll have a look together. So as you can see, we've got the standard version to our right and upgraded version to our left. So over the page, so as you can see from the sprue callouts, they're all exactly the same because obviously it's the same vehicle all the way down to the point where you get down to the tracks. And obviously the standard version, you've got link and length, whereas the other one, you've just got normal tracks and obviously a few other bits and bobs on there. So you can pause that anytime as you wish. So what I'm going to do is look at the standard version instructions first, and then we'll take note and see what's different in the upgraded version. So in the standard set of instructions, you put in this plate on the inside of the hull, then you put in all your torsion bars and everything in there, and you've got a nice picture to show you how everything should align and should look. Over the page, then you put in your wheels in there. Don't forget the interleave, so you make sure you put them in the right orientation. Then you put in your drive sprocket in there, then the rear plate for the lower hull, so the exhaust and everything and like that in there. Then over the page, again, you put in a few little bits and bobs, and then putting this on the lower hull. And then you put in the interior engine deck sections together. Obviously, you haven't got an engine to put in. Also, you put in your bow gun in there. And then over the page, you put in the upper hull sections together, the bow gun in and everything all on the top of there. So the rear engine deck and everything, you're putting all that in there. Tow bar. So far, again, no colour callouts, but that shouldn't really be too much of a problem. You put in your rear wheel on there. Like I said, you've got link and length tracks. You've got this jig that you can put in there. Obviously, don't glue that in there. Then you put in your photo etched rear vents in there for the engine deck and all this and the other. A few other bits and bobs in there. Then step 17, you're putting your side skirts in there, so it's plastic, but you can cut them and put as many as you want on there. Step 18, you're starting to put the gun sections together, and then you carry that on all the way down, all the way through, as you can see. You're putting the internal parts together. Then you start working on the upper turret, so you've got an inner plate to put inside there. And then a few other bits and bobs on the top, as you can see there. So not a lot of photo etch, to be honest with you, going on there. Then you put in the rear door, I think that is, on the rear. You've got a spring for the gun, so you can operate it. I don't know why you want to do that, but that's on there. You've got extra track that you can put on the side of the turret. And then pretty much that is that all the way down there. So quite self-explanatory, quite easy. So in terms of the differences then between the standard version and the upgraded, the standard version is this one, than the upgraded, so I'm only showing you the pages where it's different. So far, step 4, you've got this segment here and these parts which you're putting on there, so just take note on that one. The next one up that's different is step 5. As you can see, you've got this part of photo etch that you're going onto there. And then moving on, step A1, you've got some drilling that you need to do, so just take note of that as well. Next up is step 9, and you've got quite an extensive pieces of photo etch to go on there, as you can see. Not to mention step 10 as well. Now, this is where it kind of obviously varies differently completely. So you've got steps 10 and 11 on that page, where this is just step 10 on page 9. And then step 11, you've got these towing eyes, which are 3D printed parts instead of just the normal parts. So this is obviously the biggest part between the two of the kits. So I've had to swap them the other way around. So you've got the link and length tracks in the normal one, and then you've got the individual tracks for the upgraded version. So you've got this jig, and you've got to do 90 pieces per side. So obviously 180 parts for the complete track system. And as you can see, it doesn't look too overcomplicated. There's just one track and then the side pieces. So it's not like a Sherman set of tracks where it's multiple parts, or overly multiple parts. The other difference is this part here as well. So the rear engine deck, the vents, you've got that part to do. And as well on part A6, this is an inclusion where you've got some photo etch to go on there onto these bolt cutters, which I'm only assuming go onto there. Then again on part 15, you've got the fire extinguisher to put on, which you don't get, which is obviously 3D printed parts, and some other bits of photo etched as well. On the upgraded version, again, you've got 3D printed parts for the lights, where obviously the standard version is just normal plastic ones. So as you saw from step 17, the standard version is one part for the side skirts, whereas the upgraded version, you've got multiple parts. The only other version from step 18 is the upgraded one. Step 18 is actually putting these photo etch parts onto the side skirts, as you can see there, whereas step 18 on the standard version is putting the interior gun together. Now we jump ahead to step 26. There's no difference between the other steps and this one, but on step 26 you've got this piece of photo etch, or the two pieces there and that on there, whereas the other one you don't. Likewise on step 27 you've got a few other bits and bobs, as you can see on there as well, whereas you don't on step 27, so you can have all this all open if you so wish, but obviously don't forget you don't have a full interior. So the last differences between the two, the upgraded version, obviously you get a metal barrel and the 3D printed muzzle brake you can see down at the bottom of here, whereas the standard version you don't on the left here. And that is the end of the differences. So in both of the boxes, the schemes are exactly the same. So you've got ×4, you've got 3 spotty ones and a normal one. So you've got 502 Abteilung, May 1945. And then you've got Abteilung 502 Third Company, but Thund Company in March 1945. Then you've got another one, the Second Company, Danzig, Germany, April 1945. And again another 45 one, but Kassel, Germany, and Abteilung 511. So they're the 4 schemes you've got. So next up, we've got the photo etch. The gauge feels about right for what its intended purposes is for. So those vents look very nice, as you can see there. The only other thing is that clear film on there is just to protect it, but just be careful, as I always say, when you take it off, but very nice. Then you've got the decals, so they look kind of out of register, but I think they're supposed to look like that, so it looks like it's on a painted on effect, but don't look too bad, to be honest with you. Very nicely done. So as you can see, we've got the lower hull, and pretty much you've got some very nice details running all the way down the sides there. Same on the underside, you've got some detail on there. You've got some rolled cast texture, which you can pretty much make out on there. It's very fine running all the way through. Some nice weld seams going all the way around, and pretty much there is a lot going on the inside of there, as you can see. A lot needed to be glued in, and also you've got some ejector pin marks, but that is very nice. And also it's not warped inwards or outwards. It is very nice and square. Next up is the turret. Well, at least most of it anyway. And as you can see, you've got these bars that run all the way across there just from stopping it from warping, of which it's doing its work very nicely because it's not. Also, you've got some nice weld beads going all the way around there, as you can see, and you've got that rolled cast texture, which you can pretty much make out. It's very fine. There's no flash. Looks very nice. You've got these ejector pin marks, but don't forget you've got that thing that goes on the inside, like a cover that goes inside. But that's very nicely done. Now we can move on to the major sprues, and we've got Sprue A, as you can see. So we've got all the major components, the upper hull and all this, that and the other on here. Now, these are the plates that go down on the side of the lower hull on the inside, and you've got all the torsion bars that go through down there. So very nice detail on there. And also you've got that cast rolled texture, which you can pretty much make out, if you can, on all these parts running all the way through. Nice turret ring on there. So even down to the fine details, it's quite nice, as you can see all the way through. So nice sprue. Yeah, I've got a tiny bit of warpage on here, but I don't think it's really going to affect the build, to be honest with you. But nice sprue overall. Next up, we've got Sprue B, and as you can see, you've got your side skirts on there and a few other bits and bobs. But to show you some notable bits is the tow cable. Now, the finesse on that detail is lovely all the way through. There's not too many sprue gates, so obviously you don't want to break this, so be quite careful. Also, you've got a drilled out gun barrel, so some nice slime moulding going on there. And as well, you can see the numbers written on there, so the details are very fine all the way through. These side skirts, obviously you can cut them at any point as you wish and glue them on. And on the opposite side, you've got some quite big ejector pin marks. You might want to get rid of them. If you see through them, you probably won't, but either way, very nice sprue. Now, on this sprue, as you can see, you've got all your drive wheels, your drive sprockets, your torsion bars, and everything else, all for the lower hull, the vents, and some exhaust pieces, and this, that, and the other. But one thing to note about this sprue is that everything that's all around the drive sprockets, the wheels and everything, they've got no seam line that runs around anything. And they are smooth as a baby's bottom. That is a bugbear with me, that there's a seam line and everything, and you've got to clean it all up. All it is just the sprue gates around everything. So that is the only thing that you'll have to clean up. So that is a very nice touch. Everything else looks spot on, even including the exhaust. It's all drilled out and everything else. So that is a very nice sprue. Thank you so much for that one. Now, Sprue D in this one is slightly different, obviously, to the other one into the upgraded one. So you've got your extinguisher, which is 3D printed in the other one. You've got some tools and this, that, and the other. And you've got the tow eyelets, which are 3D printed in the other one. But either way, these don't look too bad straight out of the box whatsoever. They are very nicely done. The detail is lovely. Right, on to another big sprue, and we've got Sprue E here, and this is not another turret if you think it is, because it's not. This is the insert for the main part, so yeah. But either way, so you've got all the parts and you've got the hatches and everything else on there. Now, my own personal opinion on the weld beads going around the top of the turret is that it's not completely naff, but they are very soft, so you might want to redo them. But other than that, everything else on the outside looks spot on. Like I said, you've got that cast texture on the top of there, and everything else looks very nicely done, even the smaller parts. On the inside, you've got some really nice details on the upper part of the turret, and you've got no detail on whatsoever on the side. But one thing to note is this is not an interior kit, so don't assume it is. But either way, that's not too bad whatsoever. It's just that weld seam that goes around there. But either way, not a bad sprue apart from that. So now this moves us neatly on to the main gun armament for the tank. And you've got your barrel on there and everything else. And there's the muzzle on there, which is there. And the barrel itself, the seam line down. And we always know that the seam line is quite tricky to get off a rounded part. And it's very, very fine. Trying to show you down there, but it's very tricky to show you. But either way, everything else on there looks very, very nicely done, even including the muzzle as well. So that's near enough one part. So it comes with a bit of photo etching in there, so it shouldn't be a problem. And everything else is lovely done. Very nice cast texture on the gun mantler and everything else. And on the reverse side, yeah, not a problem with that whatsoever. So nice sprue. Very little dinky sprue this, Sprue H. Now, these are the 3 internal parts for the engine bay. Obviously, one thing to note is you're going to get this in the upgraded version anyway, and you've got a little dinky part there as well. But very nice details on there, as you can see. Very nicely done. On the opposite side, some ejector pin marks, but you're never going to see them anyway, so that's a nice sprue. Now, taking a closer look, obviously, link and length track, so the reason why it is so is because most of it is being built up for you, like you see there, and then you've got all the individual ones and some for the turret as well. Now, I would like to say that there's no ejector pin marks on anything, but if you look closely, you've got some on just the singles, but whereas the multiples, as you can see there, there's none on there, but they are very nicely cast, very crisp all the way through, not a problem with that, and the same on the opposite side. So nicely done them. Not a problem. So if you don't like doing tracks, then this is the one for you. One thing I forgot to mention is this jig for the link and length track. So that just sets the orientation and the angle of the track as you're building it along. So it's down on like that. So do not glue this part on, whatever you do. And the final sprue is, as always, the clear parts, which is Sprue T on this one. And these are all the parts, all the vision ports for the driver, gunner, and the commander's cupola. They're very nicely done. Like you do with both of them, you get this spring, so that's to operate the gun. I don't know why you want to do that, and this braided piece of string, which is to resemble the tow cable. So that's what you get. So in terms of what's different inside the box, this is what you get with the upgraded version, different to what's in the standard version. So the tracks and everything else that you see here, and obviously that's for the tracks as well. So bear with me 2 seconds, I'll show you everything. Now, I know what you're going to be thinking, these are individual and probably a lot harder to go together. But one thing to note is that there's only 2 sprue gates on each one, so there's not a lot of cleanup to do. And there's no ejector pin mark on any single one of these. And I've had a look at them all. So they are exceptionally done. Holes on the side for the pins to go in, but they are very nicely done. Now these pins, obviously you've got number 3 and number 4, so obviously they're sided for whatever reason, but either way you just snip the actual sprue and then you just put them on as a oneer and then just snip off the ends, and that is that. So yeah, not too overcomplicated. Also, like in the other version, you've got the metal spring, but also you've got some copper wire. And also you've got that added photo etch, which again has got that clear stuff over the top. But either way, that is a nice inclusion, just a nice little fret. Also, you've got this beautifully turned down metal barrel, which it will look exceptional. That looks very nicely done. Again, as we've been talking about 3D printed parts, you've got everything in there. You've got the lights, you've got the muzzle brake, you've got your tow eyelets, and you've got your fire extinguisher in there, all wrapped around this very secure cage. I can't feel, and I've been, I must admit, looking, can't feel or see any striations in there, but they are very nicely done. So nice inclusion for that. And lastly, we've got Sprue K, which has got some tools on there, and this, that, and the other. So that is a nice little sprue, as you can see down in there. Right, as I mentioned earlier, if you really wanted to, you could upgrade to this. Now, this set costs £10.99, and as you can see, it comes with the side skirts. So let's have a look inside the box. Now, I must admit, if you really like photo etch, then you're going to love this set. Now, it's quite comprehensive, as you can see, going all the way through. And you've got all the fenders at the back and at the front, all the way around. And then you've got these side skirts, which are individually done. And then you can put them on, and you can put them on individually as you so wish, down on there. Now, in the box, you get this wire as well, which is in a big plastic bag. I don't know why, but either way. And then obviously you've got the photo etched, which is again scale thickness, I would say, judging by what a vehicle like this would have, and everything looks like it should be there. The actual fret itself between the parts looks a bit too fine for getting in like sort of photo etch scissors, so I'd have to cut it with a blade or whatsoever. But if you like photo etch, you should like this. This shouldn't be a problem. And there we have it. That is the review for Rye Field Models King Tigers. Now, there's no right or wrong in this. You can either go for the standard or the upgraded version. Me personally, I'd probably go for the upgraded one, only because you're getting the deal that's inside the box with everything in there. The standard one, you'd have to obviously pay a premium to buy everything that what's in there and this, that and the other. And also this, I probably wouldn't particularly go for that, only because everything inside the box looks just as good. Now, what you've got to ask yourself is, and compare this to other brands, is it as good as other brands? And me personally, I think it's just as good as other brands. So you've got Dasworth, Dragon, Tamiya, Meng, Hobby Boss, ICM, Daisha and Takum. Now, I do apologise if I've missed anybody on there, but the cheapest one is Tamiya at £26.99. The most expensive is Daisha at £74.96. That's well out of there. This one, the upgraded one, is more comparable to Dragon at £45.99. I've seen around about that price. And also this one is comparable in between Tamiya and Meng. So they are competitively priced. You've seen the detail inside the box and this, that and the other, so you can take away whatever you want. But if you want a curbside kit, I can't fault the standard version. That is a really good price for what's inside the box. So with that, I just want to say thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again on the next one. Cheerio.